All right, welcome everybody to our SWAA Cross Long Service Leave webinar. I'm Carly, I'm the founder of the Support Worker Association of Australia, and I'm thrilled to bits to be able to welcome today Shannon and Jess, both from the Long Service Leave Corporation. So they're going to run through a presentation today, updating us on all the changes and the new scheme that has launched. We've got some questions that have been pre-submitted that we will run through, and they're going to do their best to answer for us as well. So if anybody has questions as we go, feel free to pop them into the chat, or there is a little option, I think somewhere in the bottom of the Zoom, to pop your hand up. So I'll keep monitoring that as we go, and make sure all our questions are answered. I'll hand over to you guys, ladies. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Hi, I'm going to do a presentation now, and then we're going to open up for questions and answers. Happy, as Carly said, put some questions in the chat. Both Jess and I will monitor the chat, but any questions, if you want to put it up in the meantime, happy to answer, but we'll go through this quick presentation for you. Just going to share my screen. So is that view, people see the screen? Okay, cool.
Yep.
So with the new portable long service scheme that's coming to effect on 1st of July 2025. So the traditional long service is where you have an additional period of paid leave that workers may be entitled to after working for a company for certain years, which is usually 10 years unless you're under certain agreements. But you'd have to stay with that one employer for 10 years. With the new portable long service scheme that came into effect 5 weeks ago, workers can claim 6 weeks long service leave after 7 years of service in the industry with one or more employers. So it follows you around different employers within the community service sector. So the new scheme will be supported via a levy paid quarterly by the employers, and the rate is set at 1.7% of the workers' gross ordinary wages, which we'll go into a little bit more about that. And the levy payments will start commencing from April 26th. Get to the next one. So the portability, so the scheme provides an incentive for workers with skills, knowledge and experience to stay in this community service sector to support future growth. So from 1st of July, community service workers' entitlement to long service leave will be held in a collective fund with employers responsible for quarterly contributions on a worker's behalf. So from July 1, if a worker moves to a new employer, their long service balance will move with them. It's like having a hat. So instead of having to stay with that employer for 10 years, you could move throughout the community service within the 31 different sectors, which we'll cover shortly, and your leave will follow you around, so you won't lose those entitlements. So these are the different sectors within the sector. So if you move, say, from accommodation support service to homelessness support, family support services, community welfare, as long as you move within those 31 different sectors, your leave follows you around. I'll send a copy of this presentation through to you as well, Carly. So if you want to forward that on, that's okay as well.
Thank you.
So the key element of the scheme is to understand is the eligibility. So eligible workers is when a worker's delivering community service work on a full-time, part-time or casual basis. So you don't need to be full-time, you can be casual or part-time as well. And all employers who employ community service workers must register them with the scheme. So the eligible employers is where the employers will do a predominant purpose is a delivery of community service work, then all workers within this organisation must be registered. We have our website where the employers or anyone can go on there and see, do a predominant purpose test. They can determine whether the employer is predominantly community service, then every single person under that employer would be covered under the scheme. The only ones that wouldn't be covered is where the directors, where the employer is a corporation, or partners where the employer is a business partnership. Another out of scope is federal, state or local government employees because they're already under a really good long service scheme. With the self-employed contractors performing community service work they're the only ones that can opt into the scheme by registering themselves as workers, and that's from April next year. The participation is not mandatory unless as a self-employed contractor, you start employing anybody under your business, then you do need to register them as workers. So purely up to the self-employed contractors whether they want to actually register into the scheme. But definitely if you start employing people, you do need to start registering those workers.
Shannon, before we move on then, one of the questions that came through was, is this applicable to allied health within the NDI space? And does it also include admin staff? And I know we caught up about this question over the weekend at the expo, but can you just talk about where it's delivered in community services as a whole, where it's the predominant purpose? Can you just explain how that applies to other professions within that same scope?
Yeah, so if the employer's predominant purpose is community service, then every single person under that organisation is covered, and that would be if there is an allied health under that organisation, yes, they would be covered.
Yeah.
If the predominant purpose is not community service, so if it's just purely allied health and it's speech pathologists, physios, just within that, but they're not predominant purpose community service, then they wouldn't be covered. But if an organisation's predominant purpose is community service, then everyone that's on the wages is is on the payroll will be covered. So you have some instances where there's GPs, there's medical practices, and the GPs are not covered because they're contracted or they're paid by another part. So they're not actually on the payroll of the organisation. But there are instances where those GPs are on the payroll and they are covered. So they do get an ordinary wage.
Yeah. And who determines, is that something that is self-assessed by that company and they decide whether or not they fall into that predominant purpose category?
Yeah, so there's some questions on our website to determine that, but then there's also other things as far as we can look at their I'm trying to get a wording correct, but mission statement, we can go on and have a look at their website and see what the last few like meetings and minutes and so forth are. We can have a look at the ABR. We can have a look at a lot of other different prompts. But if they're not sure after doing the predominant purpose tests, they can contact us and we can have a look into it with them as well.
Yeah,
it may be something they need to talk to accountants and to get further advice as well.
Yeah, because if it was found after that they actually are eligible, they would have to back pay that, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth going through that process to really make sure they get that decision right.
Yeah, and we're open. We'll have our contact details after this. That if anyone has a question, happy to answer. If we don't know the answer, we're happy to look into it and get back to them as well. But yeah, definitely contact us if you're sort of sitting on that border, and we can come back and answer. So the other two main sectors, I guess, as you call it, are not in is childcare. So they're not in, and aged care. So we're aged care, residential aged care. Sorry, not aged care, but if it's in a residential aged care facility, and that's the predominant purpose, then it's out of scope.
Okay.
But if you're delivering, go back to this one. So if you're delivering home care in aged care, for aged clients, then you are covered.
Yeah.
But if it's predominantly residential aged care, then it's out of scope.
Okay.
Did you have anything to add on to that one, Jess?
No, it's probably tied up really nicely, but yes, well, for that in-home care, that's where a lot of support workers often slide into. It's not about where the funding comes from or the age of the clientele. It's if that's an in-home care, then yes. Residential aged care is residential aged care. They got a significant pay rise that may or may not have been significant, but that is why they were deemed out of scope of this situation at this point in time. There's always time for legislation to move and change, but currently residential aged care out of scope, you can still be a community service that comes into it and you are in because you are doing a community service, but working in that residential aged care facility excludes you from this scheme while you're working for them.
Yeah.
And then that early childhood, that childcare is out of scope unless it falls into a greater umbrella, such as a neighbourhood centre, where it's sometimes really hard to pull those people out. So it's predominant purpose of that neighbourhood centre is a community service that childcare is in, and it's generally quite a specific community service delivered for a certain cohort. But
okay.
no, got it.
But accommodation in a disability space, so accommodation support services in
like SILS and things like that.
SILS, SDA, they are covered,
Yeah.
even though it's residential and aged care is not. Great.
And It's not just if you're under the SHADS award as well. I think it was identified 9+ different awards that fall under the community service. So we've got a lot of questions that say, I'm not under the SHADS award, so I'm out. So definitely not. We've got the 9 different awards plus, then you've got enterprise agreements. So that's quite one of the common questions we get asked as well.
Thank you.
So from July 1, workers will accrue service credits for the time they're employed with the sector. So 7-day pay cycle, 7-day service credits, regardless of the number of hours worked. So in that, we're explaining that a little bit more. If you work 1 hour here, 1 hour at another employer, it's put down as a one whole day. The way we pay the worker is on the average of the gross ordinary wages. So we don't look at how many hours they've worked. If they've worked for an hour that day, that's put through as a whole day.
Okay.
So workers can accrue a maximum of 365 days credits per year. So just explain that a little bit more. If they work for 4 or 5 different employers, which some of them do, they can only ever accrue that 1 day, but all the employers will put through their service credits, but it'll only ever be 1 day, and we'll pay it at the highest average wage. So if they're working 1 day a week, and that one employer they're getting, say, $200, but another employer they're getting $700, we'll pay it always at, we've got 4 calculations, and we'll pay it at the highest average wage. So workers who are working at any time during the first 6 months of the scheme, so from July to December, will receive a bonus 365 days of service credit. So instead of having to wait to claim that after 7 years, they can claim it after 6 years. It's our way of rewarding. We can't backdate all the service that the community service workers have been putting in and all the wonderful time they've been putting in, but we can reward them with a 1 year's service. So instead of having to wait 7 years, you can claim after 6 years. So employers are responsible for submitting service returns and paying the levy. So at the end of a quarter, your employer will submit a service return to record your service period and pay a contribution to the fund on your behalf. So employers' quarterly service return will include the dates you were employed, your gross ordinary wage, and your contact information. So the employer service return include a contribution to the fund through a levy of 1.7% of your gross ordinary wage. So as far as workers at this point, it's more making sure your employers are registered and they're aware of this. And workers are not having to do anything to register or do anything on that behalf, on that sense, but workers will be including the first 2 service returns, will automatically be receiving the registered workers foundation bonus. Come April next year, when the employers put through their first 3 returns, then that's when we'll start getting emails or contact information out to the workers, and they'll get access to a worker portal where they can go on and check that all their service has been put through. And it's usually we'll get a annual return that will be sent through to the workers, but the workers, after they get access to that portal, can just log on and just check that everything's been put through. And it's something that similar to, I guess, service, your super or your payroll. You just want to go on and check that everything's up to date. And then you're not waiting that whole year to say, hang on a minute, that employer hasn't put my service through. I have to go and backdate that. And definitely if it's been missed and you're not on that foundation workers, then you contact us and we can look into that for you. So if you've been employed from July to December, you'll definitely get that foundation bonus. If it's not on there, contact us, contact your employer, and we can have a look into that for you.
And so if they don't get an email after that first reporting period, that's a bit of a red flag to say, oh, maybe my employers missed this and they should follow that up.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure at this point how the workers will be contacted. In our other scheme, they have a worker number, so it's a W with their worker number. It depends how the employers sent through the details, whether they've got email addresses, home addresses, whether everything's up to date. But there will be a way of us contacting them, and if they haven't, then they can contact us.
Yeah. Okay.
And we can have a look. We can have a look at their records.
Okay. And Christy's just asked, will employers have access to the same information on the portal? Will they be able to log in and see their staff's accruals, I think is what she's asking. Is that right, Christy?
I'm not 100% sure on that, Jess. Are you able to answer that one?
Not sure if they're able to see your overall I know they will be able to see their information they have provided to us, whether they can see that you work for two businesses at once and you're getting service records may be a privacy issue.
Yeah, that's
so
what
I
I was
would
thinking.
anticipate that they can see theirs. We're making it very clear to employers that they have a right to ask if you have leave, because it's one of those considerations as a business. They kind of need to know if everyone has this able to go off on leave at the same time. That said, that only happens after recruitment is done. You have been onboarded, contracts have been signed. At that point, they have the right to ask if you have accrued leave somewhere sitting. And it can be as simple as, yep, I have, or not for another 2 years. So
Yeah,
that will
that's a
be
really
there.
good point.
But it's a good question. We'll check with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, because I know, as Jess said, they can have a look on their portal and see the start and end dates and what service accrued for as them as an employer, but I don't believe they're going to have access to individual workers because it's going to fall under that privacy, but we'll follow that one up for you. So employers will track service of their eligible workers and prepare for levy payments to commence from April 26. We have a really good spreadsheet on our website that can show, it's like a template that can go through and show them how to put the first 3 quarters through. Some of the payroll systems do have long service as a side column, but not all of them have it yet. So that's something that we are looking into. So your current employer remains responsible for your long service entitlement up to 30th of June. That's another kind of a tricky question when we get with the transitional, but we will go into that a bit further. Your employer is responsible for managing the leave payment for workers who reach eligibility 10 years with the one employer and want to take leave under the 1955 Act or Enterprise Agreement. The LSC, so Long Service Corporation, will reimburse your employer for the portion of the leave where the contributions have been made to the fund. I'll just have a check where we have the transitional ones in this spreadsheet and I'll let you know on this PowerPoint. So the other good thing about this scheme is the breaks in service. So workers can have a gap of up to 4 years in the gap of service of 4 years without losing their entitlement held in the fund. So that means you can go for any reason. We don't ask what reasons. You can have 4 years. You can go into another. You can go and work in the government. You can go and work in another sector altogether. You can go on holidays, maternity leave. So you take that time. As long as you return within that 4 years, your service credits will remain. You won't lose those credits. If you get closer to that 4 years and you have a reason why you need to extend that, just contact us, and case by case we can have a look into that. So
Shannon, sorry,
yep.
Is there a minimum number of hours that you have to do when you return to work after that 4 years? No. So you could do an hour a week, wouldn't matter? Yep. Great.
It just, yeah, they paid on your gross ordinary wage. Sorry, Jess.
So, just because I love some light legislation reading,
yes.
There is a portion of that legislation that does state that a business does not have to capture work if you have done 5 days, less than 5 days, so 4 days or less, remembering that we're capturing days, not hours.
Yep.
So they don't actually have to capture that detail. So if they have someone that they hire within the last few days of that service, 30 day, the 3-month component, service record portion, they don't actually have to put that down on the data that they give to us. That would be the only flag I would say. So I would want you on their payroll. Again, they're on their payroll. So there's no time for hours, but we would want a couple of days, at least 4 days on their payroll. It's a weird grey one slid in there just to make sure that your nose is clean, all is good, things are right with the world. Remembering you can be a casual as well in this scheme. But that's the only thing I'm noting on that. Just don't want you caught out right at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So more than 4 days prior to your 4 years.
Yes, please.
Being up. Great. Just to be safe.
Yeah. So when the service returns are put through, it's from say July to September. So the 1st of July, 30th September. if you're there for that whole period, the employer would just put down that you're there for that whole period, just your gross ordinary wage. If the only time they have to amend that is if you started midway through or you end midway through, then that's when they'd put the start and end dates, but otherwise you'd just be there for that whole quarter.
Okay.
So prescribed non-service days may be added to a worker's record to cover absence from work, which include community work, pregnancy, caregiving, illness or injury, and domestic violence. Serious issues affecting immediate family members are also included. So prescribed non-service days, there's a form that will be on our website that will be able to be filled in to have that put back on your record. So it might be that you've had to take, say, 10, 20 days off because of one of those reasons. You just send that through and we can, by case, we'll have a look at that. Our registration team, I believe, will be the ones that we're looking into that.
So workers will do that themselves?
Yeah.
Yep, great.
They may need, I haven't seen the form, I've seen the forms in the other schemes, but they may need something from their employer to say that, yep, they've been off for that period, and they may need to show some sort of proof of why they've been off, but it's pretty straightforward, the forms. So the workers, yeah, as I said, the workers need to contact the corporation to request that non-service days be added to their record. The only way that they can claim prior to that 6 years is the leaving the industry. So in certain circumstances, workers who have been in the scheme for 5 years and decide to leave the industry permanently can request a pro rata payment instead of taking their long service leave. So where it says pro rata is when we do the payment and we don't request that you take the leave because we're doing the leave in the industry, and you'll be locked out for a certain amount of time if you do return to the industry, and then your service credits will start at 0 again. With that 5 years, if your foundation bonus, so if you've got that for 6 months that you can, and you leave the industry in 4 years, you've got that 5 years because you've got that extra year bonus as well.
Okay. So a question did come through prior, and this gentleman's not here today, but his question was, okay, I'm 5.5 years into the job. When can I start using that leave? I've previously done 12 years in the New South Wales hospital system and 12 years in public service defence, and that leave was paid out.
We're going to be covering that shortly.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So yeah, we do this next section, actually, we're going to go into that transitional, which is probably one of the ones that are a bit more trickier to get your head around. It did take us that work within long service to a little bit of time to get our head around, a lot of back and forth. But so where we've got the red line down the middle of this page, I guess we call it like a line in the sand. So from July 1, the employers will start contributing to the long service leave fund instead of retaining funds for future workers. Prior to July 1, the employers will remain responsible for workers' leave entitlements accrued before July 1. So prior to July 1, they would fall under the Long Service Leave Act 1955, where that's where if you're with your employer for 10 years or more, then you can claim long service. Unless you're under that enterprise agreement, where some of those enterprise agreements, you can claim after 5 years or 7 years, just depending on those agreements. From July 1, it falls under the Community Service Act for both the enterprise agreement and the long service leave. So under the 1955 Act, employer claim is employers calculate and pay a worker under the entitlements. The corporation will reimburse the number of weeks where the contributions were paid into the fund. So if a worker has been working for, say, that 5.5 years, and they'll be eligible to claim under the 1955 Act, which is the 10 years in 4.5 years when they've reached that 10-year entitlement. But because the employer's been paying into the scheme for that 4.5 years, the employer will pay the worker 10 years and then come to us for reimbursement of the 4.5 years, but they've been paying into the scheme. So the worker wouldn't have any eligibility to claim with us until they reach that 6 or 7 years, which 6 years with a foundation bonus, or if they're leaving the industry. So in that instance where that worker has 5.5 years, if they stay with their employer, their current employer, for another 4.5 years, then they'll be able to claim with their employer. But if they leave that employer, the earliest they'll be able to claim through us would be in 6 years, so 2031. Yeah. So workers' claims after 7 years or 6 years for the foundation workers, we calculate over 4 different calculations and get the average of the the highest average of over 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, or 7 years. So the way we do that is some workers, maybe casual, work into a management position, go down to a caseworker, go back to management, go near in retirement. So it's sort of like that ebb and flow that their wages are quite different. So we'll look over those 4 different calculations and we'll pay the highest average wage over those 4 different calculations. So the worker's not missing out. The interstate claims are if you've got service in other states, we're still going through the reciprocal rights at the moment, so they haven't been signed off on. But if you working within the last 60 days in New South Wales, and the other states are on board with the reciprocal rights, then the workers can come to us to facilitate the claim and include the long service payment. So for instance, if it's all signed off and with the reciprocal rights and they've got 6 years with Queensland and they can come to us in say a year and say, I want to claim a long service. They've been with New South Wales for 60 days. We'll do the claim, contact Queensland, get the payout from Queensland, and we'll pay it as a New South Wales claim.
Okay.
A pro rata is the leaving industry claim, which we just touched on a little bit ago. So we've got some case studies now. So Sue's worked with her employer for 8 years and wants to know when she can claim her long service entitlements. So with that line in the sand, 8 years is with the current employer. So Sue will accrue 10-year service under the Long Service Act 1955 in 2027, so in 2 years. So Sue's employer will pay her entitlement directly to Sue, and that will be that 10 years, and then come to us for 2 years that the employer's been paying into the scheme. Any questions on that one yet?
No, so in that scenario, the employer pays the full amount and then they claim back the 2 years from you guys. Yep.
So there's an employer claim form. There's information on what's been paid to the worker. We'll get a copy of their pay slips or something similar to that. There's a calculation on there, and then we'll pay the employer back into the employer's account. There's and under the legislations, there's no certain time frame, but the employer should get to us as soon as possible so that there's no double dipping into the claims process for the worker.
In this scenario or in any of the scenarios, so Sue has decided to take long service leave and action that process. Who is responsible for notifying you guys, and is there paperwork that Sue needs to do in order to apply for long service leave to take it, or it's just notifying her employer and then they fill in those forms with you guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, the employer would give Sue her leave, however they do that, whether it's at 8.67 weeks, which is under the 1955 Act, whether it's they're paying her, 3 days long service over a certain amount of time. However they decide to pay that, they'll come to us and get a reimbursement. So they'll fill out an employer form. There's nothing at this point where we can see where the worker's taken leave unless we are notified. Okay. So yeah, it's an employer, when you get put through the service returns, there's something working in the background where they may get a prompt or something to say, have you put through your employer claims? Is everything up to date? Just sort of like a reminder to put that through. So there will be something that will be sent through, whether that's at the end of each year or end of each quarter when they put it through. Not 100% sure yet, but there'll be some sort of reminders that will go through. There are, in the other schemes, a lot of employers don't remember to send it through, but there are other ones that put through straight away as soon as they pay it. The next day we get the claim form through.
Yep.
So another one where this one's under an enterprise agreement. Jill started with her current employer 3 years ago. Under enterprise agreement, when can Jill claim? So with this enterprise agreement, Jill can claim after 5 years of work. So in 2 years, she'll have 5 years. That means that the employer will pay the 5 years and then come back to us for a 2 year of reimbursement. Some enterprise agreements are different. Some are 5 years, some are 7 years, just dependent. We have come across a few. There are enterprise agreements in the different sectors as well. This one is for Stevie, who started work with her employer from July 1. When can Stevie claim long service entitlement? So because Stevie doesn't have any entitlements under the 1955 Act, They've just purely started from July 1. The earliest that Stevie can claim with that 365-day foundation bonus is in 2031. And that's just purely from us. So they'll need to come through to us to say that they're taking leave, and we'll pay that directly through to Stevie.
So they'll notify their employer that they're taking it, then they'll
Yeah.
notify you guys themselves. The employer will not be a part of that.
No, the employer will have to approve that they're having leave. I haven't seen the form yet. I don't know if it's been finished off as yet, but the employer may have to sign off to say that they've given this leave to Stevie. Stevie will apply to us to show that they've got this leave approved, and we'll pay the bulk payment to Stevie. The only thing we take out of that is obviously the same as the employer, is a tax. So we'll do the calculation. It will go through to more likely a payroll system through us, a finance system, sorry, and the tax will come out, and then that payment will go directly through to Stevie's account opposed to the employer paying that.
Okay. Can they opt to take it in a bulk payment as opposed to taking the leave time? That's one of the questions that's come through, sorry.
As far as they're wanting to take that whole 6 years and
As
take
one,
it
as one bulk payout, yeah. Or is it just...
so they do need to show that they're taking leave.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is, unless they take that bulk payment, is only if they're leaving the industry, and that's like the pro rata payment. Otherwise, they do need to show that they're having that leave. And at this point, it would more likely be that the employer would sign off, but I can't confirm that unless you've got any other intel, Jess, about how that's going
to. This scheme is designed to be providing you leave
and
providing you payment for leave. The only concept of a cash in hand kind of idea of a payout is if you are leaving the sector for good.
Yeah, okay.
So from April 26, service returns and levy payments will commence. The employer portal will access organisation records, upload service returns, online payment system and notifications prior to reporting. The worker portal will access individual records and annual notification of reporting. We'll find out about that if the employer could access the worker portal. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a no, but I will find out for you though. More information will be provided ahead of the service return period. We've got a link I can send through as well to subscribe to our newsletter, and it will be sent out, and anything that's up to date, so we've got any updates, will be sent out in that newsletter. Our website's quite often updated as well. We've got a lot of FAQs on our website. Resolving disputes, so employers and workers will be able to contact us for assistance when resolving any disputes that arrive under the scheme. That would be anything to do with missing service, their employer's not registered, they're missing out on the foundation bonus, anything at all, come through to us and we'll be able to have a look into that dispute. We have a customer support through our contact centre, which is the 13 14 41. Email inquiries can be lodged through the community services at long service, but there's also the info. Is that correct, Jess? Or we're going back to,
Yep.
The case-by-case discussion with a dedicated CSI scheme inquiries or customer service staff, referral to compliance if appropriate. So if your employer hasn't registered, we'll contact our compliance team and they'll contact the employer and just let them know of their obligation. It may be that they'll just say, we're coming out to that area, we're just letting you know the obligation to be recorded for the community service sector. They're pretty good in our compliance team. It's more about the awareness opposed to issuing fines or coming down with the heavy stick. We just want to make sure that everybody's included. And we understand that we haven't been able to reach out to everybody, and there will be people that are not aware of the scheme, but we're hoping that the workers will reach out to their employers and that can come through to us if they have any questions. So backdating a worker's registration, including foundation worker bonus if appropriate. So preparing for the new scheme. So from July 1, your employer will need to have determined the predominant purpose and understand if they need to register all workers or only some of their workers. That was the predominant purpose. If it's purely predominant purpose is community service, then everyone's covered. We've got instances where a university may have a financial counsellor, they will be covered, but the rest of the university, so will not be covered. So it's only instances where there's predominant purpose is not, but there are definitely community service workers, then they will have to be registered under the scheme. The complete an online employer registration, it says by the 31st of July. It is still open though, and it's on our website. So if you just go onto our long service website, community service, there's a big thing that says register now, and it goes through to a Service New South Wales portal, and you will go through and register. It's pretty straightforward. You just got to make sure that all the ABN details match what you're putting through as far as contact person. The employers will track their eligible workers' service, keeping records of the worker's period of employment, total gross ordinary wages paid to each eligible worker during that period, worker's date of birth, email address, and phone number. And that's where I believe they'll pull out the registration for the worker portal, is from that information. The budget for levy payments of 1.7 of the workers' gross ordinary wages per quarter, with payments to start from April 26. I was going to say something and then I've just totally lost track. Oh, the workers service, as I said, we've got a template on our website. I'm happy to share that with you as well, Carly, but it will have, it's just a template. It's got a cheat sheet at the front page, the second and third and fourth tabs. It will tell you service records for the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and it'll just show you what we need to include so that you can start tracking as well.
Amazing.
The next steps are that we've got our website, subscribe for email updates. Further information are being prepared for workers. So we're getting some fact sheets. We've got FAQs on our website. We've got quite a bit on the website. They can go in and have a look and see the workers and then the employer's responsibilities. So that's under that longservice.newsouthwales.gov. It's / community services, but you can just go into the .gov.au and there's a prompt on there that says community service. You can subscribe to our regular email newsletter updates, and then you can contact us or the team. So more likely it will come through to one of us, so Jess, myself, or our other two colleagues. It will go through to a call center, but will probably more likely contact us. And I'll just stop sharing and open for questions.
Beautiful. Thank
There
you.
There is a lot in there. We understand there's a lot of information. I'm going to go and show you our website quickly. Sorry, I've got to share again.
Christy or Kelly, if you guys have questions, you're welcome to pop them into the chat while we load that up.
So this is our website. You can see that okay? Oh, no, I've got to tick it on twice. Okay, so this is our website. So you just go into the home button on our website. It will say employer registration is open. So the employers will just go through and answer some questions, and then they'll go through and to link. I'll just go back up. We've got information on here for employers. We've got information for workers, keeping work records, worker service records. So it's got in here about ordinary wages. We've got our template here that they can download to keep the records. We've got information on what's included and what's not included in the ordinary wages. So you can have a look at that as well. So these are all the different types of that's included. So yeah, the website's definitely got a lot of information in there. We're building on that weekly. We're adding on to that. If you think there's anything missing that you believe that should be on there, just contact us and let us know as well.
There is a new workers fact sheet that we had at the expo that's just a front and back A4 that will be really great for you guys. That's been uploaded this week onto the workers portion of that website.
Thank you, ladies, so much. It doesn't look like we've got any more questions coming through, and I think that information has covered all of the pre-submitted questions that we've got here. I'm just double checking them. The only other one was around when can you take the leave, but we've covered that. So
I think the other question you had there was about the self-employed, which you did ask at the expo, and it was about if they're paying super.
Yeah.
We are looking further into it, but I believe it wouldn't be, because if they're not getting paid as a gross ordinary wage, then that wouldn't be regarded as on their record, it'll be still under the self-employed, but we definitely are looking into that. So I'll come back to you, Carly, on that one.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So that question was around if they're a contractor and you are required to pay them super under that contractor arrangement, would they also be eligible for portable long service leave?
Yeah, and if they're not getting paid a wage, like they're not getting paid a gross ordinary wage, sorry, not getting paid on the payroll as a wage, then I don't believe so, but I just will come back to you on that one.
Yeah, amazing.
I think there was another question that might have popped up, was there? Or
Christy Lee has just said thank you, very informative Q&A. Kelly said thank you for the info today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I'll send a copy of this slide through, and any other questions, just send them through.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you guys joining us today. And yeah, if we've got more questions, we'll definitely pull you back in.
Thank you.
Great.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.